I was streaming earlier and the Wi-Fi acted up. Um, and I'm very much dreading attempting to redo it because I know that I'd say out of the five or four people I had watching, at least three or four of them are going to go and be unavailable from this point forward due to their um, multiple viewings of Morbius that are going to be taking place today. As we discussed during the previous stream, it's actually very common that people who see this film go to see it multiple times, which is what has caused it to become the highest grossing movie of all time. So if we don't have anyone else show up during the stream, that'll be the reason why they were here at the beginning. And I'll admit, maybe I could have said, give me 20 or 30 minutes, but I didn't know when I'd be back. Um, and I know that for a lot of people, going 2, 3, 4, 5 hours without seeing their favorite vampire is just impossible. So I forgive them for abandoning me in my time of need. Anyways, if we're gonna try to recapture some of the glory we had before the internet decided to commit Sudoku, um, I was saying that when the original Sonic came out, the film, I was not excited at all. I thought the design was terrible, which a lot of people did, and that's why the Paramount changed it. I thought the plot was kind of goofy. You have this video game character who is known for having human characters that people don't generally like, and you're going to transport them into the realistic world. It just, I also wasn't really turned on by how it seemed very much outside of Robotnik and Sonic, again, from the trailers, to have almost nothing in common with the games. Um, so I let it, go into theaters, didn't see it in theaters. And I saw it later on, and I thought it was all right. I especially enjoyed Jim Carrey's performance. I think he's good in everything. Um, and it was, it's one of those films where he's threatening, but he's also comedic, and he's actually, which makes him very enjoyable to watch. Because a lot of films have these kind of bland, forgettable villains, and I'm still thinking of different phrases that Eggman said in that film. Um, I thought Marsden did a good job as Tom, and I mentioned this before the stream exploded. I was a fan of his from the Fox X-Men films where he played Cyclops, and I always felt that they never gave him enough to do, especially after the first movie. So it was kind of nice to see him get a lead role. But I was way more excited for this than I was for the first one, mainly because of the first one's post-credit scene and also the stuff we were hearing about it prior. Like we heard that we knew from the post-credit scene Tails would be in it. And we also heard that Knuckles would be in it and he would be voiced by Idris Elba, who is another actor that's really good, but unfortunately in most performances, he like okay, so back in 2010, when Thor was being, filmed and whatnot, there was a lot of controversy over Elba playing an Asgardian character because of them being based off of Caucasians. And it's so funny to think about how he sat there in that role in the MCU year after year and he did virtually nothing. And I remember more distinctly the controversy around him playing that character than anything but I'm just using that as an example of he's another actor that's good who generally doesn't get anything worth doing in a lot of stuff, and it's really sad. um yeah, Akatsuki Merchant. I know Carrie is good. I've seen The Mask. I've seen Batman Forever. I'm this was not my first time seeing him in something. So you're kind of preaching to the choir. I was really sad that they were that after this came out, he was saying that he's considering retiring, and Paramount has announced. I don't know if it was Paramount, but it's officially been confirmed that if he does retire, they're not going to recast Eggman, which I'm glad because I'm not really a fan of recast. But also, there's the question of, can this be a long running series that goes past three if it doesn't have Sonic's main villain? Because he's not just Sonic's arch nemesis. You can probably only name on maybe one hand the number of Sonic games where Eggman isn't there. I know that Eggman's not there for what was it, Sonic and the Black Knight. But other than that, it's like he's always around him, and you just to not have him. I don't know if that can really work if they want to keep doing these. So that's what I'm kind of a little concerned. I guess maybe they could have Metal Sonic screw with them, but I just don't see how that would be anywhere near as fun. It was my hope that Carrie would enjoy this enough, and they said they hope they could write a script that Carrie likes enough to come back for number three. I really hope he doesn't quit doing this because he's easily one of the best parts of both of them. I say the second one actually gives him more to do than the first one, where it's more of like a subtle because he's not really the Eggman people are familiar with yet. And then the second one kind of starts to go into the crackpot area. But to give kind of a non-spoiler review, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. There wasn't a single moment where I was bored. I thought it took all the characters from the first movie and gave them more to do while also balancing the additions of Tails and Knuckles. Um, I really would recommend it. It was enjoyable. It was funny. There was some nice little heartwarming stuff. Um, Good performances. I really can't think of anything I'd complain about. Which is not to say it's perfect, but just off the top of my head, I don't really have any issues with it at all. Um, and I did have issues with the first one, and like now with the second one, I don't really feel that way. And I said before that like this is probably my favorite movie of the year so far, which I've seen some people say on Twitter, and every time they say it, someone takes the Batman and puts its poster in and adds them. It's like, yeah, I still haven't seen that, and I'm not going to see it until it comes out on HBO Max in a week. But anyways, if you want to get into some spoiler type stuff, should I put that? I guess I'll have to change the title to say that there's spoilers in this. But again, it's like that's the worst part about doing a movie review or talking about a new movie because every time you do it, you're always worried. Because I really do not want to be the prick that reveals stuff for people that don't want to find out about it. So let me see if I can edit the title to put spoilers in there. I think it's so funny how I'm one of these people that like when I was younger I used to care about spoilers, but now because of how much I see online and people just stick stuff about something new anywhere they want, I can't even bother like trying to get involved in that. As far as like being that type of person anymore where it's like I just have to accept that someone's going to reveal something somewhere, that I don't expect it about something I might be curious about seeing. Okay, Jedi Master writes, I'm hoping for at least two more films. One with you know who at the end, the last one with the majority of the Sonic characters appearing in a final battle, Silver, Amy, Peaches, Jet, Vector, etc. So I'm really surprised you came back because I thought you went to go watch Morbius for was it the sixth time this week? I know you go twice a day to see it for about 4 hours at maximum. Um, I don't know how they do Sonic 3 without Amy. Because and we're just gonna talk about the post credit scene here. We can get out the way. If you've actually played Sonic Adventure 2, even though Amy's not a playable character in that, she still has a very important role to the story because she's the one that convinces Shao to help out the heroes. Um, I guess you could have somebody else do that, but I just don't because I know that with Sonic X they changed it up a little bit, but I don't know how you do that story without her at the very least. So and also it wouldn't even make any sense because it's like if you think about it, because there I had Megumi say that they might skip Amy. If you remember when Sonic 2 was first announced, and at the post credit scene you have Tails at the end of the first one, there was nothing about Knuckles. If you watch the first movie, you would have no idea that Knuckles is going to be in the second one, other than maybe the fact that echidnas were in it, which I mean, we've had echidnas before without them explicitly being him. So I don't see how they do a third one without Amy. I think if she's on the third one, she'll either be in the actual film or in the post credit scene. I don't buy that she doesn't show up. at all in some capacity. But I have to admit, I do agree. If she and Shadow are like the two new ones for three, it makes a lot more sense to have him as the post credit scene than her, because it's going to get more people excited because he's the apparently the second most popular character in the whole series. Which I already said before. After Sonic Adventure 2 and Heroes, I just kind of lost interest in them. Like I don't know. I don't want to get too involved in trying to argue that stuff with people. Somebody was saying who should voice Shadow. I said, well, he got a lot of flack, but I really wouldn't mind if they brought Jason Griffith back, because he actually, even though I didn't like his Sonic voice, I think he did a good job as Shadow. As far as like, he sounds like the one from SA2. They sound kind of similar to each other, where I really couldn't tell the difference. He did a good job imitating him. It's really disturbing how some voice actors can sound just like somebody else. Like you wouldn't even think it was the other person. Like what was it, George Newbern and Tim Daly when they played Superman in the animated series in Justice League? It's like I had to look up that was two different people because they sound like so similar to each other. Yeah, I've also seen some people who say they'll bring in Rouge, and which I don't know if they're willing to do three of them in one movie, but it's still, if they're trying to, because if they're using Shao, they're obviously going to do a Sonic Adventure 2 adaptation. So I mean, Rouge is a big part of that, and if you don't have her, then you don't have the I guess the villain campaign from that game. So yeah, there's cause to believe they might do it. I'm not sure, but I just think if they don't use Amy, I'll be very shocked because it won't make any sense. In the third movie, it would be neat to see more of a quest adventure plot line like the third act of the second movie, maybe a plot where we go through different dimensions like Green Hill Zone or Marble Hill Zone. Um, well, you know what it is. They always complain about set pieces and, oh, we have to make this and we never use it again. Um, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you could say like for me, Sonic 2, the film is kind of takes the story of Sonic 2, the game, and then Sonic 3, the game, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and kind of merges them together, which isn't hard because early games like the ones in the Genesis don't really have a tight story that's just more gameplay. So that's why I'm saying I don't know how you put Shadow in this and it's not at least partially based off of Sonic Adventure 2. Like I'd be very surprised if we don't get something that is similar to the story of that game, where people think Sonic is Shadow even though they look nothing alike. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you, and then they'll go off of that. But yeah, I was really surprised Jedi came back because I know you've been using any excuse possible to go and see Morbius. That's why Akatsuki Merchant hasn't written anything else because he's too busy in the theater right now. People are telling him to turn his cell phone off because that little flash of light is obscuring their view of Jared Leto. I never thought I'd live to see the day a movie would make 300 billion, especially in 2 weeks. Like Morbius did so well that when I try to talk about other movies, people say hashtag Morbius when, as in they're just expecting me to discuss this film. It's already had Morbius 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 announced. This double trilogy, if you will. They're talking about making him one of the focal characters of the MCU. I mean, this Jared Leto is going to just by the end of his contract, he'll be living in a palace. They said this is one of the most impactful films ever released. It's already been put into the Library of Congress for historical preservation. I'm telling you, my favorite one of like the memes with this film are some of my favorites I've ever seen. Um, on Twitter, there's a whole campaign called Morbius Sweep where they're like talking about this movie and how like the only reason anybody's gonna see Sonic 2 is because they get tired of seeing Morbius over and over. Just they're making this movie sound like Like it's doing so like just it is performing on a level that they've never seen of a film before. And it's hilarious. Like my favorite picture is still the one where they edited Wikipedia for the uncultured to have Morbius as the highest grossing movie of all time. And you see like Avatar made like 2 billion, then Morbius made 300 billion, and you got Morbius standing over the picture. Oh, yeah, I'm just imagining there's actually like an alternate universe where that came true, and Sony just loses their mind. That movie made more money there than there are people on the planet. Jesus. They said, who would have guessed that our comic book film based on a character who usually doesn't even have his own book would sell like this? But you know what? Um, that kind of in a non-joking way happened with Black Panther because I mentioned when I did my stream a few months ago, his book got canceled like 6, 7, or 8 times, just over and over. He was always regulated to being a member of the Avengers because no one wanted to read his stories individually, which is why I was so surprised that people were like going to see that film over and over again and to where it made because I remember when I was like online on different forums, a movie with a black main character could never sell millions of dollars and billions of dollars, and then we saw what happened, which does suck because I think that for example, the first Iron Man is a much better film than Black Panther, and it didn't even make it. It didn't even get like anywhere near what Black Panther did. Didn't even cross the 1 billion mark. But that's like a real world example of a movie that's about a character that nobody cared about. Before the film came out, just like losing their minds. Because the whole reason you had a Superman movie, a Batman movie, a Spider-Man movie, whether it was 1978, 89, 2002, like all of those were made because they were already popular, you know. So it's just so crazy to me. Where Marvel got to a point where they're like, here, let's make films on stuff nobody asked for. Let's make an Iron Fist movie and a Luke Cage movie and the random other person movies. Just I swear to you, I've never seen anybody. The closest I saw to someone talking about a Morbius movie was when they announced that the Spider-Man films were getting rebooted in 2010, and this guy was like, "Whoever the villain is, don't make it Morbius," because at that time Twilight was relatively fresh in people's minds. That's the only thing I heard about live action Morbius before this stupid film got announced. No, I don't. Marvel just all they do is find different obscure stuff nobody cared about to turn into a movie. Like no, even people who read comics didn't know who Eternals were or Shang-Chi or any of that. Just come out of nowhere. It's like they're saving all of the really good characters for something. Been Fantastic Four, X-Men. Well, you know what it is. They just got the rights back for both of those properties. So they're taking a moment to try and figure out what they're going to do with them. And some of the stuff they said about X-Men was really worrying me when they were talking about X-Men and mutants are interchangeable to Marvel Studios. Like, what do you got? What crack pipe are you guys on? Like, you can't say all. Oh, whatever. They're dumb. Mutants and X-Men are interchangeable. No, they're not. You have bad mutants. No, if you don't believe me, you can type it in. Type in Marvel Studios X-Men mutants interchangeable, and you'll see where they said they could just make a movie called Mutants, and that would be X-Men. It's like, no, there's evil mutants. That's why there's specifically a group of them that are good. People always talk about Marvel understands how to adapt material. No, they don't. Not when they're saying goofy stuff like that. Like my favorite Spider-Man is Maguire, and a lot of that's to do with the fact that again, like I like the films more than the TASM in the MCU, but he's the only one of the three of them that didn't say weird, dumb stuff. Like I remember Garfield talking about he wanted his interpretation of Spider-Man to be bisexual. I'm like, listen, sir, you get paid to do a film where you fight some villains, hopefully have some character development, and then date some girl. Why would a character who's been straight for for like what was it, 50 something years in 2012? Why would or rather 50 years exactly in 2012? Why would they suddenly turn him into liking men as well because you said so? I could have sworn I heard Holland say the same thing. It was weird. Like, ugh. Again, I don't dislike Garfield as an actor, but I associate him with an era of that character that I'm really because even just ignoring the movies, like the 2010s for Spider-Man are just not good. Like you have Dan Slott's never-ending awful run on that book. You have the stupid Superior Spider-Man story where Peter gets his body stolen by Doc Ock for like 2 years. It's like just all that stuff is just goofy to me. I'm good. So I don't really associate that period like the after 2007 and hell arguably up until now you just been the dark age of Spider-Man stuff. Like it's been really bad. You can make a whole documentary about it because around that time is when you get what was it, One More Day, one of the worst stories ever written where they retcon 20 something years of marriage because they think that apparently a superhero being married is unrelatable because there are no people that that are married that actually go out and do good things. That's never happened before. uh then you have a few years later the decision to kill off the second most prominent version of the character, one from Ultimate Spider-Man, and replace him with this black kid that is only liked for being African American. uh and it was bad. It was all the stuff after that has been pretty terrible. You've had a few decent stories. But I know a lot of people are saying Nick Spencer's run was pretty good. I've heard some stuff about it, but outside of that, I try to stay away because it just hasn't been enjoyable. I was really just to go back to Sonic 2 for a second. I was really what I was thinking when we got the post credit scene from the first one was that they would reveal that Tails was someone he knew or met, a long time ago. But then they reveal that he's never seen him before. That he just watched him on YouTube and became this person who wanted to be fans with him. And I remember when I was watching my brother, he said that he like said in my ear, "How does Sonic not find him creepy?" Because Tails was able to like tell him what his favorite food was, something, just some kind of like specific detail that might sound sweet if you're already friends with someone, but does kind of sound a little stalkerish if you have never met this person. I don't know. Just that was I was just glad that he was voiced by the same actress from the games because they always love to recast people. It's like these are voice actors. Let them voice their own stuff. Yeah, they really did try to stick to three games in one with this film. Oh, and then Eggman's henchman running the coffee shop, and he's so obsessed with him that he puts his picture in the coffee. And it was really funny because I don't even remember that guy doing anything, but like even a minor character like that, he had multiple scenes I thought were funny. So like him again, the coffee stuff, but then also like putting the F minus review on his store so that nobody will ever come back after he finds out Eggman's alive. And then as after Eggman gets the I don't even know what to call it. I guess the big egg machine that he makes, like take me with you. And then the book of instructions on how to operate the device specifically looks like a Sega Genesis model. For when you play one of the games and they have the little instruction manual. Yeah, it really seems like every single character they brought back had more to do than the first movie. because I remember one of my issues with the first film was that the wife, Maddie or whatever, she disappears for the whole second act. If you recall, like between when Sonic shows up and then after they're already on the run is when she decides to be involved in the plot again. I thought that was really weird. It was like they gave her like what fourth billing and she's absent for half the movie. But in this, they actually gave her some more stuff to do. Yeah, it was I was surprised. And then him switching the wedding ring with the actual ring to bring Sonic back to his to where he was, I thought was really. My brother said he saw it coming. I didn't. I just thought, okay, he has this ring and he's trying to like because when they were doing the phone interruptions where he kept calling him and he wouldn't pick up. I thought that was where he was going to throw the ring and then it was going to mess up the wedding, but it was even worse because he switched them out by accident. Oh, and then my brother was very shocked by the inclusion of Supersonic. The only reason I wasn't was because I remember specifically when they first announced the second one, they said they wanted to introduce Knuckles and Supersonic. Like they mentioned as one of the things they wanted to stick in the sequel. So I knew that they would probably find some way of putting it. Plus, like by the time you get to the final battle, it's they're on such a point of despair, to where it's like, what else can they even do to combat this thing? And the second the Master Emerald cracks and you see all those different colored Chaos Emeralds come out, you already know what's coming. I like that they took the lore from the first movie and kind of expanded on it because when I watched the first one for the first, I was very confused. Like, okay, he's with this bird lady, and then these echidnas are just douchebags and attack her for no reason. And then you find out, according to Knuckles, that it was some big, long-running feud between these two different tribes, which makes his feud with Sonic more personal. I still hope they expand more on that because that's actually something that they made that I find kind of interesting, and they don't really like. We don't know how long he was with her, what he did in those years between. I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff they could still tell us about if they wanted to. I don't know if they will, but it would be nice. Right, but I'm saying that they expanded on it, which I liked because I was confused. Like I was like, who is this bird lady? Why why are they being attacked by these echidnas? That's how you keep intrigue with stories. Where I'm just saying that watching the first one is better now than it was back then because I know where it's going. Like there's a saying that a good story is only great when it's ended. So knowing where it's going, you can appreciate certain stuff more than you did back then. Just like that's one of the reasons I still am not really that big a fan of MCU Spider-Man because it's like, okay, so he fights a guy that dislikes him because of something Iron Man did, and then he fights another guy who dislikes him because something Iron Man did, and then that guy caused his identity to get revealed to everybody. Then he hooks up with this chick that he started liking during the second movie because reasons. Then he fights villains from other better films, and then he erases everything that happened. So then we just so like well so then there was no point to any of this. Everything just got erased. Oh, he learned responsibility. It really took him 3 movies to learn that? You guys had this character for in 6 films? 3 where he's the starring person and it took that long? I don't know, I just thought it was weird. Dude, I actually do like Jake Gyllenhaal as Mr. Like I just like Jake Gyllenhaal, but his origin was weird. I'm angry because Tony didn't like my program and called it barf. It's like, okay, but what does that have to do with this other person that isn't even like Spider-Man's not even involved in that stuff? I'm telling you, it would have been so much cooler if instead of having some weird film in another country or whatever wherever they went for that movie, if they just had Mysterio pretend to be a superhero and making all these different villains appear, and then you find out he's behind it, and then like Peter feels betrayed that way. Like you didn't have to have no weird backstory about because you could have made it a commentary on people wanting to like become famous through any means possible, to where they have no sense of morality. He's like, I don't care if people get injured as long as I get my face in the paper. Like that would have been so much better to me than let's have another guy that is angry with Spider-Man because of Iron Man. I'm just saying, I think that the material could have been better. That's why Far From Home is just a slog for me to get through. Like every time I watch it, it's like, okay. But I still maintain the best parts of Homecoming and Far From Home are the villains. I love Michael Keaton in pretty much everything. Um, whether it's Batman Returns, um, I meant Batman and then Returns in two different movies, or Beetlejuice. There's plenty of stuff that he's good in. It's at the bottom of the barrel along with Thor 2 and Captain Marvel. You know what? At least Thor 2 has a bland, boring villain. But you know what? At least that movie does interesting stuff with Loki. Every time he's on screen, I'm entertained. You get to see some more interactions with Odin, and Anthony Hopkins is always good. So I still will take that probably over Far From Home. Remember, only one of these film series that has a villain that actually has character development and doesn't just show up once and get killed off or never seen again is Loki. So I'll take the Thor trilogy over the MCU Spider-Man one any day of the week. Loki's a more compelling character in those three movies than probably anyone in any of the trilogies associated with the MCU besides maybe Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. And even that's questionable. You know, I just think Thor 2 has a lot more merits than people will give it credit for, and I'll take it any day over Captain Marvel or a lot of this other stuff. I remember I had some guy on Twitter, not Twitter, on Instagram, trying to convince me to give Captain Marvel a chance. And I was like, dude, if I didn't like her for 9 minutes in Endgame, so why would I want to watch her for 2 hours? Like what? Why? And it always gets me because, and I've noticed this pattern. When you don't want to engage with something, you have people online tell you you need to do this, you should give this a chance, etc. But then when people don't want to engage with something you like, you're told you should respect their opinion and let them, be whatever. So for example, if somebody made a video saying, I will never read any comics ever, and I go on there and say, you should give them a chance, you should check them out, some of them are really good, people would say you're trying to impose your opinion on this person, you're trying to make them view something the way you view it. That's wrong. They should be allowed to decide for themselves what they want, etc. But then when I say, hey, look, there's this movie that it looks bad, it's got an unlikable actress playing an unlikable character, I'm never going to watch it. You should give it a chance, you should try to not just listen to what other people are saying. You see how backwards that is? So you have to accept every person's differences from you and just be this individual who's open-minded and you know doesn't impose their views on others, but then they get to impose their views on you. Okay. I've seen that happen so many times, man. It's not even funny. I guess it's funny how hypocritical it is. There's a lot of stuff that the second one expands on from the first one, like with that general guy that was like, "Oh, Olive Garden," and then he shows up in this at the wedding. I was not expecting that to pay off. I figured, okay, maybe like if he was something important, he would have showed up already. But then he just pops up like, "Oh yeah, here's this other plot thread that's interwoven with this wedding subplot." Because I have seen some reviews that are saying they thought the human characters were like the worst part, but I didn't have a problem with any of them. Because again, most of it was about Eggman versus Sonic. You didn't really have like I just didn't see really have any type of issue with the story. I thought it did a good job of balance and stuff. I guess I could say that Tails was knocked out for a little too long. Like after he gets, hit when they're in that snow place. I'm like, can you get up? And then he wakes up right like 2 seconds after Sonic leaves. I only say that because I do wish we could have gotten some more interactions between him and Tom, because Tom was the person that was mostly with Sonic in the first film, and then in this it's Tails, and they don't really speak directly to each other. I don't think they actually say anything to each other in the whole. I'll have to go and rewatch, but I don't remember them saying like directly speaking to each other. Which that's another thing I've noticed. You have some character where it makes like a lot of sense for them to talk to somebody else, and it never even happens. Like infamously during No Way Home, where Peter and the one from the Raimi trilogy doesn't even get to interact with the Goblin like at all. Like the closest they come to interacting is when he stabs him in the back. Just no words. I guess what drives me crazy about this, because it's like this was the first villain of any of these films with the original live action Spider-Man. It's like you guys aren't going to pay homage to that at all. Like nothing. It's so bad that even after he gets cured and he sees me, he doesn't say, "Oh, Peter, you're so much older." Nothing. Just I don't know. I still can't get over how weird that was. It's even worse when you remember that according to the bonus features on the No Way Home disc, they actually were planning on having the two of them fight each other. So, just another wasted opportunity. Like I said, No Way Home's got a lot of issues that people will deride Spider-Man 3 for, but I think it has much more problems. Like, oh, Spider-Man 3 has too many characters. Like you're gonna tell me the movie with three villains has too many characters, but the movie with five villains and three of the same character is, yeah, okay, all right. All right. Whatever floats your boat. I'm telling you, they could have taken Sandman and Lizard could have been cut out entirely, and you wouldn't miss anything. I think the movie would work a lot better if it was just three villains versus three Spider-Man. Like if it was like Electro powered up versus the three Spider-Man, like fighting them by himself, and then they take him out with the help of Doc Ock, and then that's when Goblin shows up. Or better yet, they could have it to. And I said before, one of the issues I had with the final battle is that Goblin just like he fights, because the fight's way too short in my opinion, but he fights the Peter from the MCU while the other two are just sitting there watching it like it's a Dragon Ball fight. Like we're just gonna sit here, which completely erases the stakes, because if the second it looks like he's losing or about to die, the other two are gonna step in. So I think it would have been way cooler if they had the other two fight Electro with Doc Ock, and then that makes it to where the MCU Spider-Man has to fight Green Goblin by himself with no backup. But whatever, these filmmakers are. They don't even really think about stuff too hard. Like just stick all of the different characters on there, and it'll make billions of dollars anyway. Somebody said, "Would you rather watch Morbius or Morbius? Would you rather watch 2004 Catwoman or Captain Marvel 2004 Catwoman? Would you rather watch Batman and Robin or Captain Marvel? Batman and Robin. At least Batman and Robin's were actually kind of funny, and does have a genuinely good scene with with Bruce talking to Alfred, and then you get like the different flashbacks of Alfred taking care of him. Yeah, MCU writers have the tendency to make characters disappear for minutes on end with no explanation as to what they're doing. You only say that because you still haven't gotten your Killmonger spinoff. Like Jedi, you're lucky that that Akatsuki Merchant doesn't run Marvel, because if he did, we'd have three Black Panther movies coming out every other year, and we'd have a Killmonger trilogy. He would turn Black Panther into the X-Men of like the MCU, and Killmonger in the Wolverine, where it's like, oh, here's these three movies that are already about me, plus another three about me. I don't even think they could actually do that, just because I think Michael B. Jordan's too busy with Creed to where he would sign on for something like that. I do hope he comes back, just because I do think he's still one of the better villain performances, but whatever. You know how the MCU is, they always like to get rid of him after one movie. They've been doing it ever since Ironmonger. Akatsuki Merchant, you can say that, but I know he's in your top 10 comic book movie villains of all time list. I still can't go over that lady that said that Killmonger was the best super villain in a comic book film of the 21st century. I was like, are you insane? I was shocked. I was like, my mouth dropped to the floor. Someone actually wrote that, and it's not even like a little goofy thing on Twitter, like we're joking about Morbius. Actually wrote that on the credited website. Damn, that was nuts. I don't even know if I could give you a top 10. I know that obviously Joker from Dark Knight is there, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Loki, because of how developed he is compared to the rest of them, like actually seeing him over and over. Um Thanos. If I'm picking somebody else from DC, it's definitely Zod from Man of Steel. Like Michael Shannon is just, he is everything in that movie. And we were talking about him on Saturday. It's like you have this villain who, but when my brother saw Man of Steel on Saturday, he admitted that Zod was his favorite character. It's like you have this villain who wants to destroy Earth, but that's only because he wants to terraform it into a new version of his planet, because he believes his entire life's purpose is to make sure his people have somewhere to live. He is so much more interesting than damn near any villain in any Marvel or DC movie other than the few that I mentioned before. Because it's not even about him being sympathetic; it's about him having a backstory and a motive that is noble, and even if it's twisted, it's still something you understand. He doesn't just go on Earth. I can't wait to kill some humans for fun. Like, no, because he wants to turn the planet into Krypton, so he views them as a sacrifice he's willing to make to preserve his people's place, which is something that I think the world has a bunch of people that will do. Um, I mean, you think they're invading these countries worrying about, oh, what happens if this poor person here gets killed with this bomb? They take it, like, oh well, just whatever our end goal is, we'll sacrifice people for as well. There's a lot of Zod in people in real life. No, when I heard he was coming back for Flash, I was so happy. The only thing I'm worried about is that he actually, I hope they don't do him like Green Goblin in No Way Home, where he gets like maybe four scenes and that's it, because the movie's got too many damn characters. Because it already looks like it's going to be the same thing, where you have him and Feor, who are probably going to be together for most of it. Supergirl, two different versions of Batman. Apparently three versions of Flash, but I'll just count one right now. Iris, that movie's got to be at least 3 hours. See, if that were 3 hours, I'd actually be all right with it because of all the damn characters. No, Zod is the best part of Man of Steel, hands down. And it's one of the best performances in that whole series. And I heard that apparently he's not going to die in Flash. I hope not, because that means they can use him again if they want to, which I'm always open for. Like people have this thing where they say that you shouldn't, that if you use the same villain again, it gets repetitive. And I've never believed that because look at Sonic 2. It like Eggman's the villain again, but this time he's working with a person that has powers kind of similar to Sonic. He gets the big, power up from the Master Emerald. Like there's a bunch of new stuff they do with him in that second movie. And sure enough, if they do a third one, they can probably, I mean, like I said, like when you have a character that can just invent different stuff, you can always do something unique with them. Like that's why I said people don't even. I'm so glad comic book writers aren't like these movie fans that think that if you use somebody one more than once, it's repetitive. Like part of the reason that Joker's even considered one of the best villains ever made is because of how many times he clashes with Batman, how different and versatile their interactions are. I like the way he actually makes such a good argument for why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah, he exists just to revive Krypton. He sees Clark fighting, or I guess Superman fighting against him as a betrayal of their people, which it kind of in a way is, but it makes total sense for Clark to do that because he's more of an Earthling than he is a Kryptonian, even though he's born on Krypton, but doesn't know those people. Whatever. We've been over this before. You saw the movie. You know what I'm talking about. So he would definitely be in my top 10 comic movie villains. It's like him, Joker, and then maybe there might be somebody else from DC. Let me think about it. I just know those two at least would be in there out of the DC film villains. Zod was Thanos before Thanos showed up. Like if you think about it, that is kind of true because like Zod kills Jor-El and he tells Clark to his face, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't regret it, or I don't, or rather I'm not haunted by it, but I would still do it because he was getting in the way of me preserving my planet. And that's kind of what Thanos does with Gamora, where he's crying when he sacrifices her. So they're both affected by having to, again, not having to, but in their view, having to kill someone that they cared about. Plus, he actually posed a threat to Superman. There were many times during the fight where I thought Zod could have won. Yeah, the like if Zod didn't get taken out by the air dispensary, so remember how he can't breathe on Earth because he's not adjusted to their atmosphere, and Feora took over. Um, there's a good chance if those two teamed up, they probably would have killed Superman. Because by the time he fights Zod again, that's when he's the only one left because the rest have been transferred to the Phantom Zone. By the way, I actually did one time write a because I know that apparently with Man of Steel 2, they were going to use Brainiac, and I think they were also going to use Kara. I'm not sure. Superman's cousin. It would have been so cool if they brought back Feora and they had her working with Brainiac because he like could bring back Zod. Because remember, Brainiac ties back into Krypton, so he could be like posing as someone that is so concerned about restoring the planet, and you know, um, that could be like an interesting like thing of having her come back to like be connective tissue with the first movie. Because they clearly kept her alive for a reason. They weren't just gonna have her in a Phantom Zone forever. If Snyder got to do all of what he was planning on doing. The fight with Feora and Superman has like 42 million views on YouTube. Like it's so good. Yeah, the best villains are the ones that are really threatening and have some kind of like memorable performance or characterization. What was I gonna say? I mean, even with like with Eggman, like I know he's not a comic book villain, but he like even just from Sonic 1 and 2, I there's multiple lines he's had that I remember. Um and it's like I've only seen Sonic 2 once and I'm still remembering him singing while he's got the Master Emerald power. You should have read the manual. And then when Supersonic kicks over the big egg, he's like, oh, it's like that. I really wish we had a second and third Man of Steel. Man, that could Man of Steel could have gone on for a long. And you know what the worst part about it? Superman's movie series is not like Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's series was irritating because they did a reboot, what, 5 years after the last Raimi one? Like within 10 years, you're getting the same origin story told twice. When Man of Steel came around, that was the first time they actually tried to say, forget the Christopher Reeve continuity, we're gonna do our own thing. And that was after what, 20, 30 something years of being in the same continuity with 5 movies, technically 6 if you count Supergirl. Like I really think they could have gone a long way, because think of all the stuff Superman related that showed up only after Reeve could no longer play the character. You had the death of Superman, which did get adapted in BVS, but it came a little too quick in my opinion. You have, even with like the villains, like again, Doomsday, um uh again, they did Zod during both series, but they never used Brainiac, which we could have seen during this. And because it's part of a shared universe, you can get specific character interactions you never would have gotten back then. We could, like again, BVS, Justice League. God, there was so much potential in that series, and it's such a shame that DC had, like, these, for whatever reason, Warner Bros. Has this thing where they can't just stick to something. Like if they weren't trying to do their shared universe, we could have had Man of Steel too. Yeah, we still didn't get Bizarro. I'm just imagining like a very pale version of Henry Cavill. Like it's like, I'm Superman. That would, I think that would have been hilarious if they did like some movie where there's two villains, one of them's Bizarro. Superman has a lot of good villains. Darkseid. I mean, come on. That's why it's sad that we haven't even really seen him interact with most of them. Like we've had Lex, and then Zod, and then random people that were made up for 3 and 4, and then Luthor again, and then Zod again. There was so much ground for Man of Steel to cover. Like it was in such a good position to be a series that went on for like 6 movies if they wanted to. That's why it's really sad that we probably are never. I'm not going to say never, but I don't know. It's depressing that we didn't get the second one just a few years after the first one. BVS is kind of like Man of Steel 2 in a way. No, it's not. It's a crossover movie. Don't lie to me. That's like me saying, I don't know, Freddy versus Jason is kind of like the 10th Friday the 13th. No, it's not. It's a crossover movie. No, we had this whole conversation before about people just being anti everything. Like they shouldn't bring back some villain that's already died. I'm like, what if they can do something interesting with them? Just like um I was saying, I hope that they use Doc Ock again after No Way Home, because if he's cured, they can have him be a person that helps whichever version of Peter you want. But let's say the MCU one, right? They could have him come back and assist him with stopping another villain. You know, because again, Doc Ock's a very versatile character. Like he's strong because of the tentacles, and he's very intelligent. And unfortunately, we've never really had an opportunity to have a live action version of the character that's just kind of like proliferally on the side of the heroes. I think that'd be really cool if they brought him back and he's like a good guy. But you know, a lot of people are against stuff like that. This person was saying, why do people keep demanding uh TASM 3 and Batman Beyond directed by Tim Burton and what's the other one? Spider-Man 4 from Raimi. It's like, well, 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, like let's say 15 years ago, or I guess you could say 10, but just in the last decade or so, whenever a series ended or was canceled, it was kind of just accepted you would never see those actors play those characters again or revisit that continuity in anything, in any form of manner. And now with you know, Keaton coming back to play Batman for the first time in over 30 years, with Maguire and Garfield coming back for No Way Home. It's and hell, if you want to go even further, with Christensen coming back to play Darth Vader, you know, it really is kind of the sky's the limit. We're in an unprecedented time where people are just reprising roles they haven't played in a long time to you know, give more content to that same demographic that liked them before. So this is the highest chance it's ever been for a lot of that stuff to get made, because the multiverse and this uncharted territory that we're currently in with Marvel and DC is making a lot of things that used to just that we just accepted would never happen a possibility. I think they could reboot the DC universe in an ultra realistic animated saga similar to video game cinematics. It would be a nice visual direction and a really fascinating direction for DC to take. The only reason I'm still kind of holding on to the DCEU is because there's certain people who play certain characters that I really don't want to see recast. Like I really don't want to see another person playing Zod, especially when we're just about to get a second performance from one of only two people to play him. Period. Um, I know they have some issues with Ezra Miller, which you know they can get rid of him and replace him. I don't care, but I'm just saying, like, I still think most of the casting choices are pretty decent. So that's what makes me kind of reluctant to you know, just have them outright reboot. If they want to do some kind of retcon movie, you know, do their like, which is what the Flash seems to be. By the way, I'm gonna mention the Flash's leaks because leaks tend to not be true. I don't know if you remember, but before No Way Home came out, they were saying that Happy and Ned were gonna die, and as you know, they did not. They were saying that Peter was gonna kill all the villains, and as you know, he didn't, not a single one. So I'm gonna spoil the leaks. This isn't the actual plot of the movie. The movie's not coming out until June of next year. I'm just gonna talk about the leaks. So it's been alleged that the reason Zod and Feora are in Flash is because Zod killed Superman as a baby when he was coming to Earth. He got out of the Phantom Zone early, killed him, and then they invade Earth at an earlier time. And then apparently Zod and Feora, or at least some other villain, or possibly him and somebody else, they kill the Keaton version of Batman and Supergirl, and he snaps Supergirl's neck. And I'm just like, what? So many people are losing their minds. Like, this is more of that same edginess from the DCEU. And I'm like, well, I mean, if they don't show him killing him as a baby, I don't know what the big deal. Like, if he finds out that he has the Codex, right? That's the thing that brings back Krypton. And he said before, he will do anything to make sure his people, you know, have a place to live. I kind of don't see where this isn't consistent with how he was portrayed in Man of Steel. Like I could totally believe Zod would kill a baby if it was the only way to bring back his planet. So many people were making videos about this. I don't even know what they're getting so worried about because you know it's like the leaks tend to be incorrect, especially for a movie that's not coming out for a year. Which is why I didn't have a problem mentioning it here because you know we could watch the film and then none of that stuff happens. Like I said, I've seen plenty of videos where people were predicting, or not predicting, we're reading leaks of supposedly what was going to happen in No Way Home, and a lot of it didn't even happen. Dude, there was one leak I remember infamously where it was like, one of the 3 Spider-Man is being chased, and then they take off the mask, and it's like they're dead, and it's Andrew. It's like I was like, "Can you guys stop with this with all this BS?" Like, Jesus, tell the truth for once. Do you remember the rumor that Maguire was going to play the MCU version of Uncle Ben? I don't know if you remember that one. That one was going on for a whole year. People made all kind of photoshopped crap. It's like, can you guys stop? Like, it's just. And again, this idea never came to pass. They said Maguire was going to play Uncle Ben, and they said that Garfield was going to play Richard Parker, which is so he would play the MCU version of Peter's dad. And sure enough, this never happened. Actually, to be honest with you, I probably would prefer if Maguire played the dad of the MC if he played Richard Parker. Like if you had to switch him, I probably do it the other way around. Dude, the only time I've ever seen that actually happen, where they like get somebody to play somebody that played a character to play like a relative of the characters is with Lois Lane, because they had Terry Hatcher play the mother of the Lois from Smallville, and she previously played Lois in whatever that show was from the 90s. Other than that, never happens anywhere under any circumstance. They just come up with stuff. Or they do have interesting imaginations, but at a certain point you get kind of annoyed because it's like, can you guys actually tell me something that I have any reason to believe? How did you feel about Aunt May's death? I felt nothing. The MCU version of Aunt May is nothing more than a sex joke and very poorly characterized, had almost nothing to do in Far From Home. I think she's in that movie for like 4 minutes. Um, and just I didn't feel anything for her. And it's really I never thought I'd see a day where you could have a character that's in like 4 or 5 movies and I just feel nothing toward. But that's how I felt. They never addressed her grief over losing her husband. I infamously talked about how I was so excited when Homecoming's ending was revealed, where she finds out Peter is Spider-Man. She goes, what the expletive? Because if you remember, throughout all these different live action incarnations of this character, Aunt May has never been confirmed explicitly to have found out his identity. So I was like, oh my God, the next movie is going to have this interesting subplot, or maybe it could even be the main plot of her like having to deal with being the mother of Spider-Man. We've never seen that before, and I was like, this would be great because then they can kind of go into what it's like to be the parent of a superhero, which I don't recall really being addressed in many superhero films. But I was like, yes, this is original. It's fresh. And then Far From Home comes out, and they completely skip over it. Not a single line about what she thought, what she felt. She's barely even in the damn movie. I was like, that is so lame. And then No Way Home comes out, and she's in the first half of that a decent bit. And it's like, guys, at this point, it's too late for me to care about her. Like you missed your chance twice. It's like, congratulations, Green Goblin, you killed off the worst version of Aunt May. Go team. The Aunt May from the Raimi films is iconic. She has a character arc in both the first and second movie. She's not in the third movie that much. Um, The one from TASM is still pretty good. Sally Field's a good actress. She just doesn't get as much to do because those movies are like very obsessed with Peter's parents that aren't even that big of characters in the first place. This one was the worst by far. Like I was even saying this, that if you go back and look at the original Spider-Man, the first film, um the Rosemary Harris version of the character actually has a character arc where she loses her husband. You see her living by herself. Then you have in the second film an even bigger arc for her where at first she doesn't like Spider-Man. The less you see of that man, the better, she tells Harry. And then after he saves her, she admits she was wrong about him. Um, and then also having like when she learns that Peter was indirectly responsible for Uncle Ben's death, she like takes it in and then it forgives him. That like in those two movies, that original version of a live action film, Aunt May, got more to do than anything the MCU version did in five. I wouldn't even like the only problem I have with the one from TASM is they just don't give her enough to do. That's the only issue, but she's not, she's fine. She's suitable. Like I don't in fact actually one of my favorite plots of TASM 2 for as awful as of a film as that is was that they were mentioning how she was going to night school to become a nurse and take care of herself and Peter's like, "Why man, that would have been a way better um B plot for this movie than that weird stuff with Harry and the cure for, like I would have preferred that a million times over this crap. Imagine she's teaching at the night school and then Rhino shows up. And then, that like puts her in danger and her nephew has to save her. And that's how she finds us identity. Like that would have been way better than what we end up getting. I just felt so bad for Sally Field. That was the most thankless role ever. It's like, hey, I'm here and I'm playing the aunt who they forget to give anything to do. I already said before, the first TASM I think is a solid movie. TASM 2 is it's something I don't want to watch again. Like if you told me, would you rather watch TASM 2 or Batman and Robin? I'd rather watch Batman and Robin because Batman and Robin is funny. TASM 2 is just this lifeless. They both have too much going on in them, but at least with Batman and Robin, I'm amused. Like I laugh. I mean, I think everybody in Into the Spider Verse was well done. I especially like that film's version of Doc Ock because I saw it for the first time. I was actually surprised, And then I'm really hoping that she shows up in the sequel because they haven't confirmed or anything. That is crazy how that movie. Did you notice that like Into the Spider Verse became like a launching pad for people to just stick themselves in other Marvel stuff? Like the Doc Ock from that film plays Agatha in WandaVision. The Gwen from that film plays Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye show. The I think the dad plays somebody in Eternals. It's like, oh my god. And then the blonde-haired Spider-Man is Wonder Woman's boyfriend, Steve Trevor from the DCU. So they all keep finding their way into this other stuff. It's really impressive. That's the launching pad for more Marvel stuff. I mean, the first instance of that was when you had Chris Evans play Human Torch in Fantastic Four and Rise of Silver Surfer, and then he played Captain America. Man, I remember when he first got cast, and people were like, "It's too recent. We're only going to be able to see Johnny," and then not anymore. I really hope he shows up in Doctor Strange too. I mean, of course, if you saw online and read what people are writing, you think everybody's in that movie. Like Patrick Stewart's in the film. We don't know if he's Professor X, but apparently he is. We're just going to assume he is. They're saying that Maguire might show up, which makes a lot more sense because directed by Raimi, has the Raimi theme music with Danny Elfman composing it. That one at least has a little bit of credibility. But a lot of this other stuff, it's like, guys, come on. We should be blown away by the cameos. I'm just tired of cameos. Like, just give me like. I would rather take one final Raimi film with Maguire playing Spider-Man one more time at least than 5 movies with him playing some B-roll or having 2 scenes. I'm just sick of cameos. Like, I don't find them interesting, and they're just kind of just they're just overdone, man. Like, I'm tired of seeing somebody show up for 2 seconds in the movie and everybody starts jizzing themselves. Oh my god, Nick Fury's in this movie. Oh, for how long? Like 2 minutes. Really? That's what you're excited about? I tell you, it's gotten so bad that if Morbius like came out and they put Andrew's Spider-Man's costume's foot, like you just see his foot in the back corner, people would lose their minds and start jumping for joy. Like, you guys are excited about seeing a foot. Well, Scorsese's didn't say that about the Raimi Spider-Man films. He said he didn't he was criticizing franchises in general because like I said, the Raimi films were not designed to have 7, 8, 9 movies. Each one was written as its own story, and then if they got another one, they would continue on from there. Like, you can watch the original Raimi film, and there's nothing there to set up a sequel. Like, you got Harry mad at Peter, and that's kind of it. I mean, even with Spider-Man 2, it's like the only thing that's there to be put in a third one is Harry finding out about, his dad's armory and whatever. Which even then, that could be resolved off screen. I'm just saying this is his criticism wasn't about every superhero movie. Because there's a reason he didn't say this in '89 when Batman '89 came out, or in '78 when Superman '78 came out. Because back then this wasn't like a huge, enormous thing that dominated every like movies that aren't even out yet. People are trying to turn the franchises. Like, look at Uncharted. They were announcing the Batman as a trilogy before it even came out. Same thing with Green Lantern. I know you love Martin, and every time he says something, you treat it like it's gospel. But give the MCU a break. Cut them some slack. My favorite thing is when one of my mods tried to quote him and they couldn't even remember his last name. They're like, Martin Sis is something. I was like, what gets me? It's like you'll sit here and be so because I've seen people mention that quote before, but it's like when you can't even remember the person who said it, does it really matter? Think about that. Like, if you can't even remember the guy's name, why does what they say about this matter? Like, I guarantee the people who are like mostly offended by him haven't even seen any of the stuff he's made. I'm just saying, certain comments by certain people get blown out of proportion, and they make it into this big, huge, deal, and it really isn't because the person saying it isn't even really that big of a figure. Like, I could probably name 100 people involved in the history of film, like top 100, whether it's actors, directors, etc., and he probably wouldn't even be in there. Martin. I was like, we don't even know. You can't even spell this guy's name correctly. I'm supposed to care what he said. I'm telling you that what's the last time you watched a Martin Scorsese film? I'd love to know. Now, Jedi, you don't count because I know that you were like, to hell with Star Wars. I'm gonna, I'm. Gonna just watch Martin stuff from now on. So we're not talking about you. You already sold out to big Scorsese a long time ago. Right, but what I'm saying is the general audiences of superhero films aren't like they're not even you know what really gets me? These guys won't even watch other stuff that the actors they claim to like are in, but then we're supposed to believe that, oh, they saw Scorsese's comments and were so affected by it because they're all big film fans of his and they've watched a bunch of stuff. Like, no, they haven't. If they've seen something he made, it was probably by accident. It's like, oh, I was watching Taxi Driver. Oh, he did this. Wow. Well, the traditions have changed. Look at every movie that's in like the top 20 highest grossing films of all time. And you'll notice that damn near every single one of them is a franchise film outside of maybe Titanic. It's just the fact that if you make a movie that's a sequel or based off of something that already exists, it's going to have a higher chance of being very successful than some original story. Like that's it's just a fact. I'm not saying that to be funny, to be not to be mean, nasty. It's just it's a fact that traditionally, at least currently rather, I should say that movies that are performing at the box office making millions of dollars, billions of dollars, they're all based off of something that already existed. They're franchises. No one is going to make some new original story and then it gets $1 billion. It like that performing well like that with an original story probably it I think it you know what? Avatar is not the exception because remember Avatar has 3 sequels announced. So no, Avatar still doesn't count because it's the start of a franchise. Like that would be like if I said, well, Star Wars 1977 doesn't count because back then they didn't know they were going to make 8 of these. Like no, it still counts because it's retroactively part of a franchise. That's like if you said, what's another good example? Black Panther doesn't count because it's the almost like no, it's still going to get a sequel. Hell, it's still based on a comic book or whatever. You get my point that with all this stuff, there's always some if they have sequels lined up or have had sequels since, it doesn't count because it's part of an ongoing thing that they're trying to make. So the era of making a movie with an original story that no one's ever seen before and it does like extremely well and competes with bigger things that's dead. But see, I'm not saying it's dead because I don't think you can make a story that's original that's as good as something from you know a studio. I'm saying that because I actually have box office numbers that show that the most successful films of all time, financially, are from franchises. I have no doubt that somebody can make an original story that's just as good, if not better, than a lot of this stuff, but probably wouldn't sell as well. I'm still laughing at the guy that told me that we shouldn't get a Thanos prequel because it probably wouldn't sell. I'm like, dude, if you told me in 2013 or 2012 that Guardians of the Galaxy, the no name Marvel team, would sell and perform as well as it did critically and financially, I would have laughed at you. So I said, people don't have any imagination. Now, I don't know if it would make $1 billion, but that's not because the story is bad. That's because almost nothing that's currently being released is making that much. Hell, we just had a new Batman movie, one of the most iconic characters, period, and he didn't even make $1 billion. Now he still might, but not yet. Isn't it sad when we don't even care about telling a good story? We just sit there and rattle off numbers and I don't know. Just it's just really sad because a lot of people will say that art is supposed to be a creative endeavor that we do because we believe in the story or we like what we're the tale we're telling. And now all it is just this numbers game of, will this sell as much as this? Will this perform as well as that? You know, it's really depressing in a way. Just the monopolization of stuff where you don't even nobody makes anything because they actually, just like I was mentioned before, Morbius only exists because Sony is trying to make a cinematic universe that really can't work because the main character of it is being shared with a different studio. I don't even know where this Sony verse is going. Like we're gonna get, I guess, Venom 3, and that might have Null, the symbiote god in it, possibly, or Toxin or some other symbiote. And then we're gonna apparently have a Craven movie because Craven without Spider-Man is like those are the best Craven stories ever. Um, I don't even know like what you see what I mean about how I don't know where this is leading to. Like what is their end game? I heard they're trying to make a Sinister Six movie. Who the hell is going to be on that team? A bunch of villains that have never even met. See, I was saying that I would be really excited about Sinister Six if they at least had some villains that were from the Spider-Man films, like if they had Melina, if they had Jamie Foxx, Electro, if they want to. No, I don't really care that much for him. Defoe is Green Goblin. That would make me excited for Sinister Six because those are actual antagonists that have a beef to pick with, Spider-Man. But I can't get excited about a bunch of villains who haven't even met this man, I guess, forming just for fun. I don't know what. That's why I said that universe is just so weird to me. Like it's like a black hole of creativity. I don't know how anyone is excited for that stuff. I really don't. Like I'm very serious when I say out of all of the different cinematic universes, the one I'm indisputably because people keep saying, "Oh, the MCU peaked, the MCU peaked." The one I'm the least excited for is the Venom verse or the Sony verse, whatever we want to call it. Because like, what are they doing? Like, you watch Venom 2, you know, whatever. Then you watch Morbius, and they've got Vulture, and it's like so. I mean, now we're getting to a point where you don't even know who. Like, if my problem is if you watch these three films that are currently released, you wouldn't even know who Vulture is. So just needs to complete all of the current projects and hand their Marvel characters over to the MCU. Yeah, I don't know, like, but you know what they remind me of? They're like the sinking ship where the captain is telling people, "Don't worry, we still have a chance of getting out of this storm. Don't use the boats. Don't jump out into the water. We still might make it out." There, the ship is going just like this, and they're like, "Don't worry, if we just put this out, we just do this. We can." That's what Sony is right now because there is no way in hell you make a compelling narrative with a bunch of characters who are not supposed to be the main major ones of anything. I literally cannot recall ever Morbius and Venom interacting. I can recall Morbius and Spider-Man interacting and, Venom and Spider-Man interacting, but the glue that holds it together isn't even there. Remember, I don't know if you recall Jedi, but they actually Sony at one point considered doing a Mysterio movie, like a Mysterio prequel movie, right? And what ended up happening was that he was chosen to be used in Far From Home. So they canceled it and they switched over to trying to use Craven instead, who was going to be used for No Way Home if the multiverse actors didn't want to come back, different people that were going to play, there's the same character again. So I don't really even like get what the point of this universe is. Just do prequel. And look, I'm not even the biggest fan of Far From Home. This is like whatever, it's all right. But I have no doubt in my mind, Far From Home would look like The Godfather Part 2 if if instead of getting Morbius or Craven, we got a Mysterio solo movie. I guarantee you it would have been a trillion times you would be begging to see Far From Home again if they got to make the Mysterio prequel or origin movie or spin-off movie or whatever you want to call it. I remember hearing about that. I remember smiling when I found out they weren't doing it. Yay. In all honesty, Sony's Marvel movies felt like they're all stuck in the past. Dude, Morbius could have come out in 2005 and you wouldn't have even noticed. like, like if they came out and said this was filmed and written during the early 2000s, like, all right, I believe that. Because everybody says it reminds them of the first X-Men where it's got a bunch of underdeveloped characters, some cool little spectacles, but there's nothing really there that stands out. Like it's just such a lifeless husk of a universe. Again, you look at the MCU. The big threat was Thanos. Now it's going to apparently be Kang. You know, it might be Galactus even later down the line. You look at DCU. They're doing this multiverse movie. They did Snyder had his little trilogy, whatever, but they're still trying to like do at least certain solo stuff. I can like I want to see Aquaman 2. I want to see the Flash. But I don't even know what the Sony verse is. Like what are I guess we're gonna get a second Morbius if this doesn't perform too terribly. It's just like I don't get it. What is this universe leading to? And then they keep saying they want to do Sinister Six. What is the plot of that movie? A bunch of random villains are going to transport to the MCU and fight Spider-Man because Vulture now has a beef with him, even though they didn't have an arc. They were on good terms by the end of Homecoming. So I guess it's like that character derailment is so bad. You have people who are actually saying that the Vulture in Morbius is a variant and not the one from the MCU, even though the director said it is the same one from the MCU. Even though he's acting like he has amnesia. Dude, Morbius should win a record for the most misleading trailer ever created. Like, I remember when Infinity War was coming out and they had the trailer with Hulk and Wakanda, and then you don't even see him in the movie. Oh, it is a complete joke. That's why it was released on April Fool's Day. It's the greedy kid at school who doesn't want to share anything. Remember, I told you the sinking ship. But did you ever see the trailers for Morbius, like the trailers for the movie? Because they're all misleading. They have one of the trailers. I'll never forget all these damn clickbait videos. There is a trailer that has him walking, and in the corner you can see the Raimi version of Spider-Man in the background, and it has traitor written on it. And so many people took this one little scene from the trailer, and they're like, "Oh my god, Morbius is set in the Raimi verse, and Maguire might cameo, and oh, this is so exciting." And then in the same trailer, they have the Oscorp logo from TASM. So like, and then you watch the movie, and neither of those things are in the damn movie. And then in the final trailer, they have Vulture talking over, and I'm like, oh my god, is he going to be like a major supporting character and have like 5 or 6 scenes and be someone that convinces Morbius to, I guess, maybe use his powers for good, or like, what's his arc going to be? And then you watch the movie, he doesn't even show up until the damn thing is over. God, what a waste of Michael Keaton. I was really excited at the idea of them having a Sinister Six in the MCU, and I was really disappointed that Keaton didn't come back for Far From Home, like in any capacity, or No Way Home either. But if this is the best they can do with him, I'd say to hell with it. Like, he's gonna go around and tell people that he wants to beat up a guy they've never even heard of together. Like, like what is this? Because they said that that Spider-Man does exist in the Venom verse, but apparently he's like the laziest superhero ever because he doesn't come to help Venom fight Riot. He doesn't come to help Venom fight Carnage, and he doesn't come to help Morbius fight whatever the other guy's name is, the Matt Smith character that they made for the movie. It's like this is the worst version of Spider. Wow, they found a way to make their version of Spider-Man even worse than the MCU one. Congratulations. I'm just imagining like their version of Spider-Man just sits on the couch eating chips while everybody's battling to the death. He's just like, oh, there was a two symbiotes, two aliens fighting each other. Oh. Damn, the hell with that movie, man. To hell with that whole universe. They need to just like I don't even like saying pull the plug on stuff, but it really seems like it's going nowhere. Because think about the Venomverse has been around now for 4 years, right? Do you remember where the MCU was in 4 years? You had Avengers, you had Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk. You know, that was actually an exciting time to be into the shared universe idea because it had a payoff that came pretty quick, right? Yeah, it's a sinking like every time I hear about Craven or Madam Web or Black Cat, whatever other Sinister Six, even though it rarely gets mentioned, I just keep picturing that ship with the Sony logo written around the horn. I hope if they do a TASM 3, it's written by someone from Marvel. Like not they need to get a whole other writing crew for that movie because if they're still making something as awful as Morbius in the year 2022 after all the failures that they've had, then just I have no excitement for that. I'm not saying it shouldn't get made, but if it sucks, you'll know why because they warned you with this movie. Yeah, man, sometimes I feel like if you go to Sony Studios and you actually see like the executive room, you're just gonna find a bunch of people with big red noses and and those little cars that everybody can get it squeeze in somehow, making balloon animals on their desks. God, I don't like. I'm seriously just contemplating what is the point of this universe. Well, we know what the point of it is. It's to keep the license for the characters that they still have, but like they're not even trying because what sucks. You can make an interesting movie on a guy that can turn into a vampire and like he wants to be a hero but his like urges make him act evil. No, Jedi, that was Fox that was behind the X-Men films. They're done after Dark Phoenix. That was their swan song, their last turd. Their triumphant turd. No, X-Men was not owned by Sony. It's owned by Fox, and now it's owned by Marvel. It's the rights are reversed after that piece of after that film that will remain nameless that came out in 2019. That was it. Their swan song was screwing up one of the greatest comic books stories of all time a second time. They already botched it in X-Men 3, and then they botched it again in that movie. It's really impressive. I've actually never seen that happen before. They take the same story and ruin it twice. Congratulations. See, this is why they need to stick with the MCU. I mean, like, people are complaining about the MCU, but I've never, like, they don't, just on average, they don't annoy me as much as these other studios do. Like, we can just go down the record. I think it was a mistake for Fox to make, after 3 X-Men movies about Wolverine, a spin-off on Wolverine. You know, like you can just go down the list and pick out dumb stuff studios have done. But at the same time, I think it was stupid for the MCU to not give Black Widow a movie until after she died. So there's a lot of stuff that like these studios do that I just don't understand. It leaves me in a state of bewilderment. Dude, that Sinister Six movie is just if that ever comes out, I'm gonna laugh so hard. Because if it's done under the circumstances that Sony wants to do it under, you had Pascal, if I remember correctly, she said it's going to feature villains from Sony Spider-Man films. Like, so are they going to just all come back from like out of different portals and hate Spider-Man? And what? The only way a Sinister Six movie would be kind of cool is if it actually does have like the different villains from across all 3 of the individual series, and they team up to take down like all 3 Spider-Man at the same like they go and attack one by himself and it looks like he's defeated and take out another one by himself and looks like he's defeated and it's told from the villain's point of view. That's the only way that would be interesting to me. But they're gonna do something stupid and probably have it be some Some old garbage. No, Morbius was the ultimate lie campaign. Like they were so deceptive. They need to go and sell cars after this movie came out. And so many people made videos. Morbius is set in the TASM universe. It's set in the Raimi universe. It's not set anywhere other than in the $5 bin at Walmart after it gets released on digital and nobody wants to buy it. They ruin everything, man. Dude, part of me almost wants to buy a ticket to Morbius just to see if there's like more than 10 people in the theater. Like just out of curiosity, just go up to the local theater because I could walk up to mine and just count how I really did sit there. I was like, how is this made 100 million? Who is excited for this? I have not seen one person in real life say they want to see this. It's a complete mystery. Like sometimes I almost think that these studios have like whoever the head is just goes out and buys a bunch of tickets just to bump up the number. Like, who are these people that are going to see this? They're like, look, I have some problems with No Way Home. I completely understand why people were excited to see it. I had some problems with what's another movie? I didn't really like the rebooting Batman again, but like I get why people want to see it. It looked nice from the trailer, whatever. I don't understand the appeal of this at all. Everyone who gives it a good review says it's okay. They don't say, "Oh, this character was really well acted," and this story was actually very interesting. No one says that. Even the good reviews are like, "It's okay, I guess." Again, at least Venom and Venom 2 apparently are fun. This is just a lifeless husk. Like, what a waste of an IP. Imagine they sell Suicide Squad and Morbius as a double feature. You get to watch Jared Leto destroy his career with comic book characters and crappy movies for 4 hours. I think I am going to probably end up seeing it not in the theater, but like in some other capacity because I really don't want to give them money for something this stupid. I really that's not my goal. God, it's just I don't understand. But contrast that with Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is a movie that clearly wants to set up a third. It's gonna they already confirmed the third one's coming out. They're gonna do a Knuckles series on Paramount apparently. But again, it's actually a fun movie. I wasn't bored. I was enjoying myself. I laughed repeatedly. I thought the performances were great. There wasn't a single person who's like, "Oh, they're just phoning it in." I thought we're good. You know, it's not a complicated story. It was just an okay, fun film you can turn on and watch, and people like. What's interesting? Other than No Way Home, it's probably the film I saw the most people like actually in the theater for. Like there were like 40 people in the theater with me. By the way, someone at my movie theater is so lazy that they forgot to turn off the lights until you remember the opening scene is like Eggman on that planet and then Knuckles comes through the ring and he sees him. We got all the way to that part until they finally turned the lights off because this guy or this dad, I guess, he went out and like told one of them to turn it off. So we could have gone the whole. I just keep imagining like if like we could have possibly seen the whole film with the lights on, which wouldn't have ruined my experience. It would just have been like a little funny anecdote to tell about you know going to see this film and then they have the lights on the whole movie as if they're just waiting for you to leave. They're like, yeah, get out of here. They should do that with Morbius when you go to see it in theaters. Just have the lights on because it's like there's no way you make through all 2 hours of this. Dude, I was surprised by how many people were there. Like we must have been 30 minutes into the movie and we still had people showing up in the theater. It was that I'm not even trying to make it sound like it was this jam-packed thing, but there was clearly an interest by a lot of people in seeing this, which is why when I came online and saw how much it made, it was like 60 million in opening weekend. I wasn't surprised at all. It's actually a fun film. that I eagerly await seeing again. I wasn't bored on any instance during the whole thing. But you contrast that with the other one, and you see. By the way, my favorite thing was again, it's still like on Twitter. They're like, well, Sonic may have made 60 something at the box office, but I bet Morbius probably made at least 300 times that. Because there are people on Twitter who are still doing the hashtag Morbius sweep, where they're saying that this movie is like shattering records that have never been seen before. Like I don't even care how bad the film is. That joke is one of my favorite I've seen online in a long time, where a movie is so unwanted, so undesirable, so uninteresting that like the memes for the film are more funny and more appealing than the film itself. Somebody made a meme where it's like it's Goku and Vegeta, and they're like, "Let's fight somewhere empty," and then they're fighting in the movie theater, and you see Morbius on the screen. Oh man, man, Sony just they took 70 something million dollars and just flushed it down the toilet with that film. Dude, I'm never gonna watch like I like Craven. I think he's a fun character and good villain, but I'm sorry, I'm not excited to see that movie. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson. He was good in Kick You Know What, and also I thought he was killed off very quickly in the MCU. But I don't really want to see another Spider-Man villain without Spider-Man. Like this is the third instance, and it's the second time where it's really ridiculous. So if people review it and say it's good, which I highly doubt, I'm just going to put it that way. Um, maybe I'll change my mind, but as so far, no. Dude, Sonic 2 had so many people coming to see it. And it's funny that on Twitter they're like, "Oh yeah, all those people were coming after watching Morbius for the second time that day." Like uh, just every time, like they've been able to make it to where if Sonic accomplishes something, Morbius does it tenfold, and it's so good. Remember, Sonic 3's already been announced. Where's Morbius 2? I'm waiting. There actually was a guy on he claims he has inside sources. He said that they're thinking about doing a Morbius 2 and the villains are going to be Venom. So it's like, dude, no, don't. There's nowhere to go with this story. You had a pretty decent villain from what I've heard in this movie, and you got rid of him. So I mean, to hell with it. You know what? That's another thing. This movie actually might have which is a low bar. It might actually have the best villain of the Sony verse of the I guess Venom verse, because I've been hearing good things about Matt Smith in this film. Um, so that's like I am kind of curious to see what his performance is, because I said before you can have a good performance or good character in a bad movie. Um, but I don't know if that's enough to make me want to go sit through that thing. Which again, if I do, it will not be in theaters, and it will not be in a way that supports Sony. This did like No Way Home, I'll support. Sonic 2, I'll support. I might even go watch that a second time. That's how good that was. But but the old weird vampire movie that only exists because they're too stupid to give the rights back to Marvel. No, they're too stingy to give the rights back to Marvel. No, I don't think so. I don't remember it taking this long because like Venom 3 was announced right after Venom 2 came out. So I don't think we're gonna get a second one. I think what they're probably gonna do is have Craven next year because for some reason they can only put out like one movie a year, right? They're gonna have Craven next year. Then they're gonna have Venom 3 the year after that, and then they're either gonna try to make some other villain that's not in a Spider-Man movie already have their own film, which probably will be Black Cat, or they're going to try to do Sinister Six, which will probably suck. Because you notice they're only putting out one movie a year, and I don't think they're going to waste their time with Morbius 2 if they can dip their toe in some other in another part of the water with somebody else. So we know we're getting Venom 3, but I don't think any of the other characters are going to get more than one movie, which seems like a mercy at this point. Dude, I can't find any excitement about this universe at all. I just sit here just dreading just whatever is coming up. Like why did Marvel have to almost go bankrupt in the 90s and sell their characters' film rights to these studios? I got a kick out of it at this point. It's just so ambiguous. Like again, 4 years into the MCU, you had Avengers. 4 years into the DCEU, you had Justice League, even if it was the version that people didn't like. 4 years into this, what do you have? You have a version of Venom without the person that has to be there to make him, a second Venom, and then a movie about a vampire that is so undeserving of being made that to make its own villain, who apparently is a better character than the actual hero of the story, quote unquote, with the lazy insert cameo of someone else that doesn't even make sense to be in the film at all. No, it's just it's complete nonsense. So I'm not excited for it. But look, I hope you appreciate the stream. Thanks, Jedi. I haven't seen you in so long. You've been over there. I know that everybody else went to go see Morbius for the fifth or sixth time this week. Um, and they're probably going to announce the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth films in the next few weeks or days. But I hope you enjoyed the stream. I really enjoyed Sonic 2. I'd recommend it to anybody. I even had one person was like, I wasn't even a Sonic fan. Like, just watch the damn movie. It's fun. So thanks for showing up. I'll stream again on Saturday, maybe Thursday, but definitely Saturday. And have a good rest of your day.